Oh yeah, Rama's going to introduce us here.
There we go. Hi everybody. Some familiar faces, not so familiar. I can't, it's so bright there. I'm going to try and... thanks all for coming. Today's really special for me. I've been with VanCaf for a while, and I've always wanted to try and do something that's a big focus on underground comics, because we have a really important underground comic tradition in Vancouver. And so my original plan today was to have a bunch of different Vancouver Underground comics folks. Not as many folks up for talk, and some aren't available. So we decided we should just focus on George. Chat with Paul, have Paul, chat with George. So folks don't know, George Metzger, his new book up here, The Lost Worlds of George Metzger. It's the second collection of from Fantagraphics, following up the Beyond Time and Again that came out, I'm gonna say 6 years ago, 7? I feel like it's been a while. And I also want to make note of Mal and Dave here in the front row. Hi, Mal and Dave. So part of my big research into Vancouver comics history is finding out that the first underground comic in Vancouver was this thing called Flash Theater Presents, which I found in a box of whatever, diving through things at the Vancouver Art Gallery book sale once, and I was like, what is this? I'd never heard of it. And diving deeper, I looked up Mal in the phone book. Mal lived up on Bowen Island at the time and was like, who is this weirdo calling me about comics? But Mal graciously agreed to chat with me, went for lunch, found out more about the history of Flash Theater Presents, and so I'm really pleased that they're here to join us. And they're going to be signing with George at 4 o'clock, and you can chat more with them about Flash Theater Presents. It's a really fascinating start to Vancouver's, not just underground, but arts comic tradition, because there's a lot of really interesting stuff that they do in that book. Do you guys still have any copies left, or you guys sold them all? Walking the floor.
Dave just gave them away.
Dave just gave them away.
We'll have a few.
They'll have a few, so take a look through it before they get all snatched up. But without further ado, introduce Paul Chadwick, the creator behind the wonderful Concrete, someone who I've been a big fan of for a number of years. And of course, George, the person we're all here to see today. Thank you, George, for joining us, and thank you, Paul.
This one work too? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to be a real chatterbox for about 5 minutes here. Just give you an introduction to George and his life and work. This 300 plus page book is coming out from Fantagraphics. It's a beautifully produced collection. Patrick Rosenkrantz edited it. A lot of scans from George's original art, also cleaned up scans from printed material too. And that's probably could be called George's signature character, Moondog, who's sort of a mystic warrior and a blind warrior in a post-apocalyptic world, which a lot of George's stories took place in, whether Moondog was there or not. And here's a funny cultural footnote. Oh, here's a page, and it has some of his signature things, like these wonderful steam wagons that are crisscrossing the post-apocalyptic landscape. But I was really surprised that there's a street character and composer in New York, very kind of a famous counterculture character in the 60s named Moondog, has nothing to do with George's Moondog, just a coincidence. Now, George's apocalyptic world is not a horrible place of reavers and all against all. There's a lot of exploration and upbeat adventure. And this is the last page of one of the issues of Moondog, where they finally reach the coast, and it's just a revelation of nature. And that's all through George's work. He grew up in rural California, and he worked for the Forest Service as a young man, and lived sort of a rural life here in BC for much of his life too. But there's nothing suburban about his work. It's actually the page ahead of it, but I like it because of the meta joke here. The first balloon, we've come a long way to be able to see this. Footnote, about 3 comic books. And I want to talk about his technique. One of his signatures is he often has borderless panels, but he has tons of lettertone and zipatone. This is a totally outmoded technology. It was a sheet of transparent plastic with dots printed on it. And you had to painstakingly lay some of it down, cut everything that wasn't going to be there, and you wind up with all these little shreds of it on your shirt and fingers, and because it was like Scotch tape. And I can't believe the amount of time George spent doing every single story with this stuff. This has a special effect where they used white zipatone dots over a black drawing. And there was plenty of science fictional weirdness in these comics too. And I just love how the dialogue in this panel uses a metaphor, trying to reach through and stir the events of our lives like a simmering stew. And the character is pretty much a simmering stew himself. There was alien weirdness too, and I think these characters might even be on an airship, which is another motif that he revisited over and over again. But as I say, this wasn't a horrible world. It was kind of a world where hippies were all going around in their steam wagons and having jamborees and mini Woodstocks. And Second to Moondog, Truckin' is probably his most famous comic series, and it's the one that lasted right into my heart. It's a combination of that science fictional stuff in the future, but also a lot from George's personal life. I think that's a self-portrait there in the rearview mirror. Yeah. And this is how he started one of the issues, and it's something he loves. He was a big cinema fan, and he loved the long push in, and this is the kind of thing that's commonplace in computer graphics now, to start in outer space and then go through the window onto a drawing table. But he was doing it back in 1971. And it just kind of amazed me to discover these comics that you could write about yourself and the familiar things in your life with the obvious love that he had here. Comics were not, 9 pages and then a snap ending necessarily. They could be about visiting the ocean and feeling the feelings you feel there. Reminds me of Percy Shelley's Ode to the West Wind or Ode to the Moon. Really opened up what comics could be to Paul Chadwick. And here's another one, just sort of a meditation on autumn, the way he experienced it just before he drew this story.
Well, I was living in the interior of BC.
Now, did you build that actual house? Because I believe it if you did. It's a chicken house.
Oh yeah, we did that one. The other guy I went to school with, Inwood, Bob Inwood.
Oh, Bob Inwood, another cartoonist.
Yeah, he was. And I knew him at school when I was in college, and so was he. But he moved up here to the rural areas, before me, long before me. And I came up here and visited him for a summer, and then the next summer I came back again, and I never left. I just stayed. I was living out there too. And then but that became like difficult. So I moved into Vancouver to get work and stuff like that. Yeah. But this, that,
Well, I got to tell you, this so glamorized the back to the land hippie movement to me. I wanted to build a straw bale house and have it heated with solar panels because of this stuff.
we didn't see. I didn't see any solar panels around.
Well, yeah. And this was another autobiographical story in trucking.
Yeah. That was my truck.
And this planted a seed in me. When I graduated from art school, I hitchhiked from LA to Philadelphia, trying to recapture some of the glamour of this story. And I thought this was a wonderful, still very timely observation of how all of modernity clamors for our attention. I love the guy getting caught by that TV set there. He's headed for the bathroom, completely forgets that, 'cause, you know, it was the Twitter of its day. A lot of beautiful landscapes in George's work.
I lived in them.
You lived in a vehicle for a while, right?
Oh yeah. I was in the trucks, and I ended up with one that was a real long one, and I could had lots of room back there, so I fixed it up to live on it.
But then the science fiction stories had a lot of the same feeling of the open road and
Yeah.
what you might discover out there.
I didn't take up driving for a long time because my parents wouldn't let me learn to drive. So I hitchhiked all over. If I wanted to get to San Francisco, I had to go out and spend a day hitchhiking. So,
Oh, different times.
different times indeed. I was into the airships and all that stuff.
Yeah, lots of airships, including this wonderful strip. This was was this one of the back covers of Truckin'? I think you turn the comic book over and it'd be the front cover. Either way, this is another great meta joke that I thought worth including. This guy's in the middle of this adventure. They're all hunting for him, trying to kill him. And he calls upon the power that directs my life, the comic book artist. A lot of these airships have a very steampunk feeling, but this was, again, 1971, 1970, long before steampunk became a trend. And I love his architecture with these fairly simple shapes, but with windows punched in them, and just beautiful, beautiful decorated designs. And this is the story. It's just 6 pages, but it is wordless. You can see in the word balloons, they're just symbols generally. And because of that, it created this tremendous mystery. It's a story about these guys going down a tunnel and finding this world down there, and great graphics, great size relationships here. And you see this fellow who's not explaining what these ruins are, and then they realize, oh my God, he's half robot. So he pulls this lever, and they all fall down to the lower level. And then there's this unicycle werebeast robot thing that comes out through a teleportation. Just all this invention in 6 pages. So in the 1990s, having had this story knocking around in my head for decades then, I returned to this world. And that was my 8-issue series, The World Below. Different characters, but very definitely inspired by this. And in fact, I did have a brain being eaten by bugs. I confessed to this earlier, and George didn't sue me then, so I think I'm still safe. And it wasn't his only wordless strip. Here's an alien world strip with alien logo and alien word balloons. Never explained, but because of that, it really invites scrutiny. And this was just, I think, his most amazing science fiction piece. It was the cover to an underground newspaper, Red Eye. I want a 10-foot poster of this, George.
Good luck.
And there's the man himself. This is the biographical section of the Fantagraphics collection. And I included these. George was right in the middle of the baby boom. Well, he was sort of leading edge, actually, the baby boom, cultural changes. And he was a spiritual seeker along with the rest of them. And one of the places he wound up was a commune run by a Sufi master, A.J. Gold. And Gold had him illustrate a book called The American Book of the Dead that Gold had written. And these are the trippiest George Metzger illustrations of all.
I knew of it, and at a certain point, I moved me and my wife, who was pregnant, down to live with it, down in California, Northern California, I think it was, something like that.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I was through a lot of curious stuff back then.
These are just heavy with symbolism. I don't know what it is, but they're
Symbolism.
compelling.
I don't know anymore.
It's probably not true, but I like to think the young Wachowskis saw this, had that rattling around in their brains. Anyway, we're very lucky to have this treasury. It's certainly on my must-get list. So let's talk.
Okay.
So you grew up in the country in a fairly isolated life. You were an only child for your first 6 years, too.
Yeah. Oh.
Then a sister came along, right?
Huh?
You had a sister, right?
Yes, I did. She was about, I was born at the beginning of the World War II, and she was born at the end of it. So we moved from Illinois when I was done 1 year of schooling, and moved out to California. See, and my mother was a librarian, and so she got a job as a head of a library up in Oregon, and so I was living up in the countryside. And I couldn't drive for a while there, but I took up driving actually with a motorcycle. I had a chance, to buy a motorcycle for $150.
Good Lord.
1946, stick shift 74. And I ended up with a sidecar too, so I could haul junk around and people. And I did that until I got dry. I ran out. I started using the motorcycle business to get up to work. I was working in the forestry up north, there in Northern California. And
You were doing fire watch, and you were eradicating some kind of
that was
invasive plant that was
yeah,
killing
that
trees.
was it. But they had a big fire, and we went to work on that one, and I remember being on the line.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, one foot in and 1 foot out. We were shoveling like mad, and you could just look through the whole forest, and everything was burning. Ooh, not so good. But I was working with just me and my boss, who was local, and another guy, and we were running around digging up stuff. And after the fire was over, only it wasn't. It was underground, and we didn't like it. So something happened to the truck, and we had to drive back down into civilization, and never went back up on there. I didn't miss it much, but it was real interesting to live up there.
Now, did you leave that job when you were drafted and went into the Army?
Yeah, when did I? It was sometime like that. I got drafted because I wasn't working. I had a job of some sort. I can't remember what all it was.
You could get a deferment for a while if you were working back then.
Not very long.
Yeah?
As soon as I was out of work, I got drafted. I was drafted within about 2 months. So,
But you didn't go to Vietnam.
No.
You were in Oklahoma.
I was in Oklahoma, that's right. And that was interesting. But
Was the Army an okay experience or a terrible experience?
yeah, it was okay. I liked it sometimes. But I worked on it. After I was in the basic camp, I got about a couple of weeks before I had to show up in Oklahoma, and so I grew a mustache. And then when I got down to there, I told them, "Oh, there's some paperwork here. It's all wrong. You got to do it all over again." And so they took my picture, with my mustache, and I had to wear my mustache. So that was real interesting. But,
Was that against regulation to have facial hair back then?
not really. You had to, if it wasn't on your photograph, you couldn't have it. But I tricked them, see, because there was some stuff wrong with my ID. And when I got to Oklahoma, I promptly went and got a new picture taken for the new ID, so I had to have a mustache.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, one part of your youth that was a big deal for you was science fiction fandom.
Oh, yeah.
Had you discovered that before the Army?
Yeah. I discovered the science fiction really early on. My mother, being a librarian, found a Philip K. Dick book for me, and that really got me going. It was like that stuff.
Do you remember which one it was?
No, I don't.
They're all mind warpers.
There were a lot of them, and I saw him a couple of times. But the one time I was at a party or something like that, his wife was the wife he had then, was somebody that I had known earlier on. So we just got around and shot the shit, and stuff. So the heck with him, because he was overloaded with people anyway. Because he was Philip K. Dick. But I was into drawing really early on. I did really good stuff when I was in high school. I got good at drawing from the early age on, and I just kept it up.
Did you do drawings for science fiction fanzines?
Probably. Yeah,
I want to draw on this just a little bit because science fiction fandom really gave birth to comics fandom at about the time George was getting into it. He knew some of this Berkeley crowd that did Zero magazine, which were the first articles about Golden Age comics ever to be written. They were later collected in a book called All in Color for a Dime.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a lot of people's introduction to comics history, which, before then, nobody knew what had happened 10 years ago, because they were such a disposable item.
Yeah. Or were they?
But the novelist Richard Lupoff was part of that circle.
Yes, I
And
knew him.
one of the contributors, he was in Chicago, you probably didn't know him, but it was Roger Ebert, the famous film critic.
Oh.
Well, he was just a teenage kid back in the Zero days.
I don't remember Zero, but yeah. And some of the people in Berkeley, like Terry Carr and a few
And
other.
Terry Carr, a novelist and anthologist.
Yeah, yeah. But one of the first people I looked up was him when I came into Berkeley. I was living south of Berkeley in Oroville, which was pretty much out in the country there. But I got close to civilization. I could travel up to San Francisco a lot because that's where the big fan scene was. So I go up there on the weekends. So, yeah.
So you just told me earlier that it was science fiction people that got you into some of that spiritual business that Baby Boom was up to. A guy named Steve Gaskin who had a Monday night class, first at the Height, and then he moved it down to the waterfront.
Yep. Yeah, no, he was interesting. He was, he'd been a teacher locally, and he did this Monday night class thing in San Francisco at a club, like a place that a lot of people use on the waterfront. And I'd go up there and go to that. So.
How big was this? Like 20 people, 50 people?
And there was enough people that not everybody could sit down. So it was crowded. But he was a very interesting fellow. Gaskin was. So.
But not the only group of spiritual seekers you hooked up with. The biography in the book mentions a peyote church.
Yes, there was. Yeah.
What effects does peyote have? I hear it's very hard to keep down before you vomit.
Nope, I never had any trouble. No, I did, and I did it a lot back then for a while.
Did you read the Carlos Castaneda books about it?
I don't remember. I may have. Probably I did, but I don't think I still have them.
They were a big cultural phenomenon at the time. Castaneda was an anthropologist, and he was recounting sort of the adventures of this Mexican Yaqui wizard named Don Juan, no relation to the womanizer, who would fly over the desert, went on peyote. I don't know. I think it got a lot of people into that. A Separate Reality was the first book.
I missed that stuff. But it was a science fiction crowd in Berkeley and San Francisco that I spent a lot of time with. Well, I'm thinking there's very few of them left. Yeah.
And your third guru, if I can use that term, was A.J. Gold, or E.J. Gold?
E.J. Gold.
Now, he was actually the son of Horace Gold, the
Yes.
science fiction author and editor, and also a famous agoraphobic. He would never leave his New York apartment. But as a young man, he'd written Green Llama comics, which was a sort of a mystical superhero. He had a skin-tight outfit, but also like a hood and
I missed that.
But if you look for E.J. Gold on the internet, there's no Wikipedia page, but boy does he have an interesting website where he lists all his expertises. He's an artist, writer, photographer, printmaker, publisher, inventor. He sounds like quite a megalomaniac, actually, but charismatic enough to lead this commune that you visited.
Yeah.
Or you lived there for a while with your pregnant
Yes.
wife.
Yeah. But,
Do you have any memories of that time you can share?
not particularly, but it was interesting. And I have to dig into something almost to get back that far. So what did I do? He had me doing certain kinds of stuff. Can't remember. I did artwork.
Yeah, you did some amazing artwork for him.
Yeah. But
The website said that he was a follower of Gurdjieff, who was a mystic who believed we all went around in a half-awake, hypnotized state, but by doing the work, we could awaken.
yep. So I remember him a bit. So
And this was all in the air in the 60s and 70s.
that's a long time ago. Yeah. But
Let me just say that the baby boom was really an unprecedented phenomenon in history, where there were so many young people alive at the same time. It was a period of unparalleled prosperity, the biggest middle class America's ever seen, and probably will ever see. So they had a lot of cultural power. So the stuff young people were into, everybody was into.
yeah. Well, it was a big city. Berkeley was a great place to be.
Yeah, and California was ground zero.
Oh, yeah. I never heard the term baby boom.
I guess I came in later to describe it, but
Yeah, that would describe it all right. Because there's all the young people all over the damn place. Yeah.
anyway, I think George's comics are such a beautiful record of that time and the concerns. It was the beginning of environmentalism. It was a time where young people are kind of naive. God bless them, and there was really a sense that the world could be better, that the world could be changed for the better, and that's why all that spiritualism was highlighted so much. You must feel some nostalgia for those times.
No, it's a little late for that. It's a long ways back there, And I'm 84, pushing on towards 85, and times are different.
Yeah, I'm 66. He was the leading edge, and I'm about the last year that's considered baby boom.
Oh, well, that term came later. But, it was a boom of sorts. Jeepers.
George, I get the sense you never had a lot of money when you were young, and you had the skills to survive on very little.
Well, yeah. To have money, I had to get a job. And I didn't really care for that too much. But I worked for the forestry for 2 years, and that was pretty interesting. We didn't fight fires often. We were doing stuff, going around finding the plants that were screwing the rest of the root stuff. So we were getting rid of plants and stuff like that. But when it came a big fire, we were up there fighting it. 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It wasn't much fun, but it was interesting. Fight fire all day, and at night in a sleeping bag somewhere back beyond that. Up in the morning, get something to eat, go out, fight fires.
Can I take you back to the underground crowd and throw some names at you and ask you if you have any memories of them?
Well,
What about Robert Crumb?
I didn't see him much. I did go visit him now and then, but he left anytime he had a chance to hop in a car with somebody and go off to another place, and stuff. So I didn't see him that much, but I did, know him some. But interesting guy. But he was, all his work was done getting out of the house, going someplace. Yes.
How about Art Spiegelman?
Spiegelman, oh yeah. Boy, I knew him too, but I don't remember that much about him. Huh.
This was long before Mouse and Fame and Pulitzer Prizes.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, before lots of stuff.
But a lot of his underground work was pretty dark. The trauma going through his family, it affected Art, I think.
I think you're right.
How about underground publishers who printed your work? And did they pay you?
Well, yeah, I got paid some of the revenue from the sales, I guess, but I didn't have a lot of time for drawing except in the evening and on the weekend. But I did a lot of it. I did a lot of it when I was young. And I was really influenced by comic books. And I've still got some of that stuff. I got a whole wad of this stuff. I've got, Prince Valiant from 1955 on up to when he switched over to somebody else for doing the artwork.
John Cullen Murphy took over from Hal Foster.
Yeah.
But if you have stuff going back to the 50s, that's prime Foster.
Well,
He was maybe the greatest of all.
Well, I liked it. But I was influenced more by V.T. Hamlin and Al Yoop.
Oh, is that right? I see that now that you mention it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I still have a lot of that stuff too. But I'll be getting rid of it somehow. So I'm going to drop dead,
Anyone from Heritage Auctions in the audience?
Well, that's for all my artwork from this book. It's at Heritage.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I sold it. Sold the idea to the publishers, because they'd taken all the pictures of it that they could use, and so they sent it to Heritage, and they sold it now and then, and I've got to get on and start selling some stuff again, because with this book out, my name is probably going to get out there again, and he's still got a lot of the Moondog comics and a bunch of other stuff. I'll look at my book. I haven't seen that yet, but I'll look at it and I'll know more about what they have there. But I've still got stuff in the closet that I probably should see about selling that too. But if I don't, my son will take care of it. So, yeah.
Looking at my notes here. I kind of associate you with the Whole Earth catalog. Did you ever run into anybody there in Sausalito
I don't remember. I vaguely remember the book, but I don't know if I knew anybody who submitted stuff to it.
They shared some of your eco-optimism.
Did they? What was what was my optimism like then?
Well, you kind of depicted a world where everybody was gardening and living in domes, and
Yeah.
it seemed quite paradisical to
Well,
me at the time.
There's a lot of that going on there. So I, turned into comic books too.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
There's a dome on the island where I live, and it's got the worst acoustics. Don't build a dome for a performance space.
no, I didn't have anything to do with any of that.
So a fellow Canadian underground cartoonist, Rand Holmes.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Any memories of him?
Well, I knew him a good deal and saw him a lot, but I really liked his work. You know.
That Harold Head #2 was an amazing comic. It was this epic, I don't know, I guess you'd call it a heist story, where he's flying in marijuana in a B-2 bomber from Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But all in that Wally Wood style that he had. The guy could wield a brush.
He certainly could. I like that. But, I was.
You were a brush inker mostly, right?
Later on, yeah. But early on, I was working with with an ink pen. And tip the pen in the ink and draw with it and stuff. I'd do drawings and then ink them. So, like that thing. That's.
And to me, this color looks hand cut. Is it? Were you cutting out films for each of the 3 color components?
Yes.
That's another painstaking thing. You
Yes,
got
it
to see
was.
some 15% magenta and some 20%.
Well, I learned all that eventually along the way.
Who taught you that stuff? Was it art school?
Probably, yeah. I took a lot of art classes and stuff. Which,
You went to San Jose State for a couple of years.
yes, I did. And I took serious stuff, but I took a lot of artwork too. And I remember I had one class in my last year that I stopped going to it. It was a woman that she's a good teacher of books and stuff, but I wanted to be drawing, so I spent a lot more time doing that and stuff. And yes, I apologize to her, but a bit.
I'm through with you, but thanks a lot.
Yeah, no, she was good, but I just didn't go to the class when I could be drawing. So, doing the stuff I wanted to be doing. I was a screen printer, if anybody remembers what that was. But I did a lot of that too. So.
You did some concert posters. Were those silk screened?
I'd have to see him to tell you.
Ah.
But no, they were probably, I would probably do the art, and they were probably given to a printer to print. I just don't remember that much.
Just photo offset.
It's a long ways back now. Well,
Another name I wanted to bring up was Bob Stewart, who gets credit for inventing the term underground comics. We got 5 minutes, folks. And he pointed to your story in Fantasy Illustrated, Master Time, as maybe the first that had an underground comic sensibility.
probably. There were a few around.
Did you know him? He was an assistant and collaborator with Wally Wood.
No, I don't think so.
Bob passed away, but his blog, Patrazibi, the word from Mad Magazine, is still up, and it's a treasure trove of pop culture of the 20th century. Well well worth a few hours looking through it.
Well, there was a guy who lived with boats. That was his name was just went through my brain now.
Why do you mention him?
Huh?
Why do you mention this person?
By the way, I know he's still around. Yeah, I don't know what he's doing right now.
A cartoonist?
Yeah, he's a cartoonist.
Ah.
Yeah,
Anybody want to volunteer a name? The right age?
yeah.
Brent's working on film.
Yeah.
He won an Academy Award for his work at Die Hard 2 with special effects and blowing stuff up.
Yeah. I've run into him once in a while, but I don't know where he lives. Well, not anywhere near him anymore, I don't think.
He was hoping to be here today, but he had to cancel, unfortunately.
He's working for a living, I think. So, I'm not.
God bless him.
Yeah.
George, let's talk about, we don't have much time, but other than comics and science fiction, what's brought pleasure to your life? Living.
Just being alive and being interested in the world. I spent a lot of time, in the underground, so to speak. But, no. I don't know, I was drawing. I did as much drawing as I possibly could, in my spare time. So.
You got a lot out in about 10, 15 years.
I did a lot of work in the 10, 15 years there. So, yeah.
Ask him about how he invented the graphic novel.
You are credited, everybody argues about this, with the first modern graphic novel, which was
Great books.
it's been collected, Beyond Time and Again.
Yeah, but that's the second edition of that.
When did it come out, Robin?
The original?
Yeah.
1976.
76, thank you, Diana.
We do have a vintage copy at our bookseller's table. It is not cheap.
Good.
But this was before Weisner's A Contract with God, and before a lot of stuff. It was not before Matt Baker's Rhymes with Lust, which came out in the 50s, but
I think it was around the same time as the Mormon book, too, which is always a photographic novel.
But it says right on the title page, I think it is, a graphic novel.
so maybe coined the term.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't me, but somebody else.
We've got to go, but does anyone have a question that I forgot to ask? Yes, Ken.
Very quickly, I just want to say how much I have been inspired and love your work, George. I probably first saw it in one of Jim Bonkers publications. I think more than anything, it's your world building, which has been so inspiring. There is a consistency and an authenticity to it. Could you, though, speak very briefly about your process? Because you wrote and illustrated and zippertoned and lettered and did everything yourself, which was unusual at the time.
No, it wasn't. Lots of other people were doing it.
Not in the underground. Sorry, I should make that distinction.
Yeah.
Did you write a script first and then sit down to draw, or?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I would pursue something that was in my brain, So, but I did the Moondog stuff so that I could do a certain kind of stories, but there were stuff that was published in the same books, same comic books, that I don't know if it's ever been seen. It's been seen. I think I've still got a few pages left. So,
You mean unpublished pages?
yeah, well, published in the Moondog comic books.
Ah.
See, but the stuff that Moondog stories are published in the book. But there's some other stuff that I did that was just graphic stories, you know, and I pursued a lot of that.
Well, we've got to wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. Could we have a hand for George?
Thank you, Paul, very much. Really appreciate it. Very lovely. As mentioned, George will be signing copies of The Lost Worlds of George Metzger, as well as David Bell will have 1 or 2 copies left of Flash Theater Presents, because you guys just seemed it. Sell them under your backpack,
That's it.
Yeah, so we're gonna go do a book signing now.
All right. Talk to
Chris,
people then.
we are going to jump right in